Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Spice. Today we are going to look at the next topic, that is the position solving for improvement. We have discussed this before also. Here we try to master the techniques of calculation and finding of moves. So let's get started with the position quickly. It's white to play and we will try to determine whether the combination should happen, and we will also try to see how to execute the combination. So we can see from the position very easily that the white queen is not letting any space to the black king. Queen is very active. The rook on b4 is easily transferable to both g and h files. Bishop on d3 is capable of attacking the h7 square. b1 rook as of now is not doing much. But if we look at black pieces, we see black situation is far worse. Queen and the a7 rook both are defending f7. Queen is attacking c5 well, and h2 also, but the queen is still out of play. Bishop on b5 attacks d3 and the f8 rook is passive. So white thought that some combination possibility must be there. Candidate moves which come to our mind. One is qg5 check, second rook g4 check, third bishop into f5. Then there could be moves like bb5, rook b5, but these are going towards the queen side. Sometimes such combinations do happen as well. So white should first consider qg5 and see. So qg5 check, king h8, and then getting the rook to h4. That is one very interesting idea. Okay. But the point is, if we move this queen, then f6 is available, and after f6 the rook and queen both control and support g7 and h7 squares. That's why white started thinking of the move rook g4 first. See, at first what it looks, rook g4, what is there to think in that? F into g and the rook is gone for free. Okay, but there is a tactical idea. This bishop will be opened, and the problem is what? Rook g4, fg4, qh6 if we play, black has f5, the pawn blocks the bishop's line also, and the queen supports h7 as well. So here white uses a very nice trick. See, rook b4, rook g4 check, f into g4 forced, first qg5 check. So this is how he mixed his previous candidate move qg5 and put it at the second place. And now after king h8, queen comes to h6. And now this is not just attack on h7, because after the only move f5 to stop the knight on h7, queen takes the rook and it becomes checkmate. We have the next position here. This is somewhat easy position. We see that the white pieces are already very active and white is able to take the black queen. So there is not much in this position, but I liked the end part where the mate is happening. The end mate is slightly different, so that is why I thought that we will look at this position. So obviously the candidate move which comes first is the move rook f6 check, and in all lines we see that white is able to checkmate black in this. So there are some variations. So queen wants to take on g5, knight is also attacking g5, so the queen on f6 is the defender. So rook f6 check, obvious move, rook takes f6, and now what happens? Queen will take on g5, but it looks as if, see, after king h7, qg7 mates, it looks as if after king f7, qg7, king takes the knight, and there is no mate over there, and the game goes on. Rook and bishop versus queen. But white calculated further over there, and there is just mating one from that position. So rook f6, queen takes g5 check, king f7, queen g7 check, king takes e6, and here we have a mating pattern where the squares, see, in front of the pawn is not guarded, pawn guards the diagonally placed squares. So if the queen is able to give check from the front, see, the queen is covering the whole line. Okay, and the pawn has helped the queen to do checkmate. Okay, So this is a slightly different position I felt. Go to the next position here. This is again a somewhat interesting position. Rook, knight and pawn are very close to the king, and we can of course see that white has to decide the game and he has to be able to mate, otherwise the black pawn is winning over here. Not only black is exchange up, but he has got some extra pawns on this side of the board. So what is happening now is white is looking for some mating ideas along with rook and knight. So the calculation is very interesting. Let's find the candidate moves. I think in this position initially there can be only two. One, knight a6 check, and second, knight b5. Idea rook b7 check and rook a7. Okay, but problem with knight b5 is rook into c6 is available for black. So white thought knight a6 check, king a8, and then what to do? That is a big problem, because let's see, after king a8 there is no direct place where to attack. Okay, so this is where the steps which we follow are very useful. So what we see when we see the position of the king, we try to identify the weakness. So the weakness is the b8 square and the b7 square. These are immediate weaknesses. White exploits the fact that if rook is on b7, it can give check from b8, and knight will get access to c7 square if the c8 rook is not there. So basically these three squares all become weakness, and white exploits by the move rook b7. Now, in spite of black's move and no check, black is unable to defend. See, after rook c6, rook b8 just mates. So the overloaded rook on c8 and this rook's inability to retreat makes the position losing. Black went e2 trying to promote to a queen, and now comes rook b8 check, forcing rook into b8, and see the end position now, knight c7 checkmate, called semi-smothered mate. Okay, one square is not blocked by his own pieces, so hence the term semi-smothered mate. Let's have a look at the next position here. White is a piece down in the position, but already we can see that the pieces are very close to the black king. Seeing the activity of the queens, we can say that the white queen is clearly superior. Mainly both are active, but the move is white's. Rook also same. Rook is already very close to the king. Black rook is not that active, and the knight on d7 guards the f6 square. That is the most important thing it is doing. So the checks which come to our mind are queen f6 check, pawn to f6 check, then there is capture f into g6. So initially we should have these three, and rook h7 check is also there to be seen. So first we should look at the move queen h6, but after queen h6 we will see that king can go to f6, and again after queen g5 check, the king might go to e5, and after fg, king will escape to d6. It is not wise to allow the king to escape from there unless there is nothing better than that, of course. White immediately considered the move f6 check. The main idea is the move queen h6 gave the idea that if king is forced down, then queen h7 is mate. Queen h8 is guarded by the black queen. So queen h square is the flight square. So he wants to block that with the move f6. It's for the move f6 so that the king is not able to escape from there. So basically it's an idea based on the concept of decoys. So after f6 now there are three variations in all. Queen can take on f6, knight can take on f6, and the king can go to g8. So after f6, if queen takes f6, then qh6 check, king g8. Now the king wasn't able to go to f6, and now qh7 mates. Similarly, after f6, if knight takes f6, then queen h6 check, king g8, and this time h7 is guarded by the knight, so queen h8 is checkmate. After the move f6 check, king g8 forced, and now it looks like the rook is hanging, and if queen h6 is played, then black can start giving checks. Okay, one of the ideas could be here to use queen checks like queen d1 check, king h2, again queen d6 check, which is called perpetual check. So white went for the more forceful move. We look at checks first. So rook h8 check he thought first. So rook h8 check forces king h8, after which all moves are forced. Queen h6 check, forcing kg8 and qg7 checkmate. So black never got any chance to give any check. Okay, so that is why the white's attack became successful. Let's look at the last position here. Again we see that the white pieces are very active. The queen is very close to the king. Rook on e5 plays a major role. It can reach the g and the h files. Knight on g5 guards h7, and the g3 knight can go to f5 and the h5 squares. So activity wise we can clearly see that white is very active. If we compare black pieces, we see the queen attacks f2, which is far away from the white king. Of course, it is also far away from his own king. Rook on f8 is doing nothing much. a8 is also not doing much. Bishop on b7 attacks g2, its active piece, and the knight on f6 is also merely a defender. So again, it will come under a passive piece. White's a1 rook is not active. That's it. So what we can say here, the king safety of relatively of white and black, we can make out that black is suffering heavily on that count. So obvious candidate moves. First we see that this knight is defending the h7 square. So the obvious moves that should come to mind see is another defender is f7, which supports g6. So there is knight into f7, there is knight e6 clearing the rook, there is knight h5, and there is knight f5. So now what we will see here, that how to choose to enter into which move. Okay, I have told you before also, we choose a line which is most forced, is the opponent's reply has to be more forced. nh7, there is nh7 also, and there is no need to take the knight instantly. If we look at nf7, king can take f7, rook can take f7. Two moves are there. There can be some other move as well. Knight e6 forces me to take the knight, but there are three choices: queen, pawn, and the f pawn also. When we look at knight h5, we see that practically to knight h5 there is only one move, because after knight h5, if knight takes h5, then qh7 is checkmate. After the move knight h5, gh5 is forced. So that is the reason white started thinking in the move knight h5 first. So knight h5, gh5, now the g file is opened. So the next move white used was knight e6. The knight threatens to deliver mate on g7, qg7 is mate. If knight e8 is moved to control g7, then rook g5 mates, because the g pawn has moved to h5. And after the move fe, which is trying to make the f7 vacant, still there is mate after rook g5 check, kf7, queen g6, because king cannot come to e6 because of this f pawn. Let's play the moves and see. Knight h5, forced to take g into h5. Knight goes to e6, threatening mate on g7. If de or qe6, then then rook g5 instantly mates. If knight moves to e8 to control mate on g7, we have queen f8 also, but rook g5 directly mates. So forced is to take fe. King gets placed on f7, but after rook g5 check, king f7, qg6 is checkmate. Okay, so this was all about the positions. Okay, I have tried to show you positions, how to solve the positions, and basically how to use the techniques of calculation. I hope you are enjoying these lessons. Do like, share, and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.